The 10,052nd meeting of the Security Council is called to order. The provisional agenda for this meeting is the situation in Libya. In accordance with Rule 37 of the Council's Provisional Rules of Procedure, I invite the representative of Libya to participate in this meeting. It is so decided. In accordance with Rule 39 of the Council's Provisional Rules of Procedure, I invite Ms. Nazhat Shameem Khan, Deputy Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, to participate in this meeting. It is so decided. The Security Council will now begin its consideration of item 2 of the agenda. I now give the floor to Deputy Prosecutor Nazhat Shameem Khan.
Madam President, thank you for the opportunity to brief the Security Council today. Please also allow me to begin by recognizing and expressing my thanks to His Excellency, the Permanent Representative of Libya to the United Nations, for his attendance today. Madam President, Excellencies, I address you today following the realization over the last 6 months of a series of unprecedented landmarks in response to the mandate set by this Council through Resolution 1970 in 2011. As reflected in my report, through our collective work, there is a new momentum towards justice in Libya, and we now look towards the first trial to be held at the court in this situation. Based on the progress we now see, I firmly believe there is an opportunity for us to show a collective success based on the partnership between Libya, this Council, and the ICC. This progress has been delivered despite what are also unprecedented headwinds faced by the court. I must be clear that coercive measures and acts of intimidation against the ICC, civil society, and other partners of justice do not serve anyone other than those who wish to benefit from impunity in Libya and in all situations that we address. It is the victims of murder, sexual violence, torture, and the other most serious crimes addressed by our court that stand to lose the most from these coercive actions. I firmly believe that is not a position that is welcomed by any member of this Council, and it is my sincere hope that we can rebuild a common ground between us for collective, effective action against atrocity crimes. I do wish to underline to all members today that despite this context, the Office and I personally remain fully committed to delivering on the promise that was made to victims through Resolution 1970 and through the Rome Statute to all those affected by international crimes. Madam President, Excellencies, this sense of solidarity and common action has delivered significant progress in the period covered by the report that I present to you today. And through the arrest of Khalid Mohammed Ali El-Hishri by German authorities on the 16th of July, on the basis of a warrant issued by Pretrial Chamber 1 of the ICC, we see a clear example of the momentum that we are building. The Office of the Prosecutor alleges that Mr. El-Hishri is responsible for war crimes and crimes against humanity committed in Metiga prison from February 2015 to at least early 2020, including murder, torture, rape, and sexual violence against Libyan nationals and migrants. For too long, crimes committed in detention facilities in the west and the east of Libya have represented a no-go area for accountability. And it is that sense of impunity that has acted as a driver, an accelerant, for the infliction of even more cruelty. Through the imminent transfer of Mr. El-Hishri to the ICC, based on the mandate provided by this Council, and through the first pre-trial and subsequently trial proceedings before the court in the situation of Libya, we send a clear message. Those responsible for inflicting suffering in Libya are mistaken if they believe they are still outside the reach of justice. Reflecting this momentum, our office also remains clearly focused on securing the arrest and transfer of Mr. Osama El-Masri Najim for trial at the ICC for the war crimes and crimes against humanity that we allege he has committed in Mitiga prison. These alleged crimes also include murder, torture, rape, and sexual violence. We have received reports in recent weeks of his possible arrest in Libya, and we are seeking confirmation of this from the Office of the Attorney General. And we are also continuing steps, together with our registry colleagues, to ensure the effective tracking and arrest of Mr. Saif Suleiman Sneidel, in relation to whom Pre-Trial Chamber 1 unsealed an ICC arrest warrant on the 8th of August. We allege Mr. Sneidel to be responsible for war crimes when serving as an officer of Group 50 in the Al-Saika Brigade and participating in an operation launched by the so-called Libyan National Army in Benghazi, known as Operation Dignity, in May 2014. In issuing the arrest warrant in November 2020, the Chamber found reasonable grounds to believe that Mr. Sneidel participated in 3 mass executions in which a total of 23 people were murdered. I call on all relevant authorities, and in particular those in eastern Libya, to secure the arrest and transfer of this individual to the ICC. It is also essential, Madam President, that we ensure those subject to existing arrest warrants for the horrors committed in Tahuna, whether they are located in Libya or in third states, are arrested and brought to justice. The scale of atrocities committed demand our collective action. Madam President, Excellencies, collectively, these actions, the additional warrants, the arrests, and the anticipated trials before the ICC, are proof that through our common work, we can end an era of impunity in Libya. This will remain our absolute central focus in the coming period. And these new possibilities for accountability are not just reflected in the concrete steps I have outlined. They are seen in the clear further commitments made by the government of Libya to partner with the ICC in these efforts. The submission of a declaration by the government of Libya, pursuant to Article 12.3 of the Rome Statute, accepting the exercise of jurisdiction by the court, was a significant moment. It sends a clear message that Libya sees ongoing real value and trust in the work of the ICC. And this is not just a commitment that we have seen on paper. It has been reflected in real enhanced cooperation received from Libyan authorities in this reporting period. I wish to express thanks in particular to their excellencies, Prime Minister Dbeibeh and President Al-Menfi, for the support of their officers, and would like to welcome the Attorney General of Libya to deepen his engagement in this common cause. In that regard, I note that last week the Attorney General was in contact with my office to request an in-person meeting. I welcome that approach, and I look forward to engaging with him further in the near future. Madam President, Excellencies, reflecting this renewed dynamic, Libyan authorities have also made clear to the office that they see significant value in ensuring a comprehensive conclusion to existing lines of inquiry as outlined in the 2022 situation strategy. Through this renewed posture, we see an alignment of messages from Libyan national partners and civil society organizations as to their hopes for a full realization of the strategy outlined originally by the Office in its 23rd report. In this new landscape, and also taking into account the significant work stemming from the impending first trial in the Libya situation, the Office has conducted a further assessment of the opportunities and consequent timeframe for the effective implementation of its 2022 strategy in fulfillment of the mandate set by this Council. I can therefore confirm to the Council today that on the basis of that review, and while reaffirming its commitment to move promptly to the conclusion of the investigation phase in this situation, the Office has renewed the core landmarks it will seek to achieve in reaching this completion stage. As a result, the Office will continue its investigations beyond May 2026 and will report promptly to the Council upon completion of each of the 3 lines of inquiry that remain in active investigation phase. Madam President, Excellencies, amidst this renewed sense of dynamism and common action, it is important to recall from where the Court derives its strength and focus. That is, our work with victims, with those affected by Rome Statute crimes. In the last period, this spirit of partnership has also been seen in our work with civil society actors. On the 8th of October 2025, I was grateful for the opportunity to hold a further periodic meeting with more than 30 civil society organizations and human rights activists in relation to the situation in Libya. The Libya Unified Team has also held over 150 interactions and engagements with more than 54 CSOs, human rights defenders, and victims organizations over the last 6 months. The messages we received from them were consistent. They are encouraged by the recent arrest, they see other tangible progress, and they believe that these actions can have a deterrent effect on perpetrators in Libya as we speak. I can feel a genuine increased trust and confidence in our work from victims and from civil society. But in our meetings, they are also clear. To have lasting impact, we must retain our focus and ensure that these positive steps result in real justice, in a way that properly addresses key areas of impunity in Libya. I underline to them that we are united in this view, and we will continue to rely on their partnership as we take this work forward. Let me take this opportunity to express my personal gratitude to both Libyan and international civil society organizations for their strong voice for victims and for their essential support to the ICC in our common work to end impunity in Libya. Madam President, Excellencies, finally, I wish to emphasize the crucial role that cooperation with other national partners has played in this reporting period, in particular with respect to crimes committed against migrants. Our work in the joint team, together with domestic law enforcement agencies of 5 state parties, has in particular actively contributed to our investigations in this area. And again here, we see concrete results delivered through our work together. Earlier this month, on the 3rd of November, the trial of an Eritrean alleged human smuggler named Tewelde Goitom, also known as Walid, commenced in the Netherlands. He faces charges that include extortion, smuggling of migrants, and membership in a criminal organization for his role in a large international human smuggling network, including operations in Libya. Our office was pleased to attend court for the closing submissions by the prosecution last week. A second Eritrean alleged human smuggler, who also operated from within this network in Libya, is expected to be extradited from the United Arab Emirates to the Netherlands by the end of the year to face domestic trial proceedings, again based on the work of this joint team. I wish to extend my sincere thanks to all national authorities that have provided their support and collaboration in the recent period. It is my hope that as we see the real accountability returns on this investment, more states and national authorities will join this collective effort. Madam President, Excellencies, based on our common work, based on the mandate and the support of this Council, there is now a brighter future for justice in Libya. We can clearly see in our activities an increased alignment of cause across actors, from Libyan national authorities to civil society partners and to our colleagues from other states that wish to support accountability for international crimes. Looking at what has been achieved in the recent period, we can allow ourselves a tentative hope that a page is being turned, a clearer space being created for good actors in Libya, and ultimately that the foundations for lasting peace and stability for the Libyan people are being strengthened. This hope is real, but it is also fragile. I welcome the partnership of all members of this Council in our continued efforts towards this goal, and also urge, on behalf of victims, that measures seeking to frustrate this work are seized. Our cause is a common one, which we will continue together in the months ahead. I can assure all members that the Office of the Prosecutor and I personally remain fully committed in our efforts to deliver for the victims of Rome Statute crimes in Libya in line with the mandate that you have provided us. I thank you.
I thank Deputy Prosecutor Khan for her briefing. I now give the floor to those Council members who wish to make statements. I give the floor to the representative of Denmark.
Thank you, Madam President. Let me begin by thanking Deputy Prosecutor Khan for her briefing. We are pleased to see you brief the Council on this important matter that the Council has referred to you. I would also like to welcome the representative of Libya to the meeting today. We welcome the significant progress made by the Office of the Prosecutor in the latest reporting period. The arrest of Khaled el-Hishri marks a major milestone towards the fulfillment of the mandate given by this Council and a first trial for the serious crimes listed in the arrest warrant. It sends an important message to the victims and the survivors that they are not forgotten. It also acts as a clear message of deterrence to other perpetrators of international crimes in Libya. We commend Germany for leading by example in its arrest and expected imminent surrender of el-Hishri to the ICC, and we urge all state parties to comply in this situation with the cooperation obligations under the Rome Statute. Madam President, we welcome the Libyan government's decision to accept the court's full jurisdiction for the crimes committed in Libya from 2011 to the end of 2027. This is a clear testament to the government's commitment to end impunity in Libya and provides a renewed basis for cooperation. The government's decision also illustrates its trustful and cooperative relationship with the ICC. In a difficult time for the court, this is an important and welcome signal. At the same time, we underscore that this new level of cooperation must be shown across all Libyan authorities in accordance with Libya's obligation under Resolution 1970. We urge the Libyan Attorney General to increase its cooperation with the court. This includes providing access to its investigations into crimes in Tahuna and Mitiga prison, and information on the progress of its national proceedings against Mr. Najem and the Tahuna suspects. It also includes surrendering suspects subject to ICC arrest warrants. In this regard, we welcome the continuing efforts by the Office of the Prosecutor to assist with complementarity and cooperation efforts in Libya and other states. Madam President, we welcome the Office's increased engagement with civil society, victim associations, and human rights defenders. Their experiences and their role in bringing both evidence to light and witnesses forward is highly valuable. We urge the Office to continue building on these good practices and to continue prioritizing its support to and safety of witnesses and victims working with the court. To conclude, let me once again welcome the new commitment by the Libyan government to cooperate with the court. States and non-state parties need to engage in a constructive dialogue in strengthening the fight against impunity. Denmark reiterates its unwavering support for the court as an independent judicial institution. Our commitment to defend the court and the principles and values enshrined in the Rome Statute remains resolute. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Denmark for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of China.
Madam President, I listened attentively to the briefing by Deputy Prosecutor Ms. Nazhat and welcome the permanent representative of Libya to today's meeting. China has been closely following the ICC's Libya-related investigations and has taken note of the prosecutor's 30th report. In view of the report's findings and the current situation in Libya, I would like to make 3 points. First, the court should strictly act in accordance with the law and its mandate. China has consistently supported efforts to combat and punish serious crimes that threaten international peace and security and attaches great importance to the role of the ICC in this regard. China notes the progress made by the Office of the Prosecutor in implementing the investigation roadmap as mentioned in the report. When addressing relevant situations, the court should adhere to the principle of complementarity under the Rome Statute, uphold independence, objectivity, and impartiality, strike a balance between judicial justice and peace and stability, and avoid politicization and double standards. Second, the court should strengthen its cooperation with the concerned state. We welcome the prosecutor's report highlighting the positive engagement between the Libyan authorities and the Office of the Prosecutor. As the court advances the 4 main investigative tracks, it should fully respect Libya's judicial sovereignty and jurisdiction, and address the state's legitimate concerns and maintain close communication and consultation with Libyan authorities. At the same time, it should assist Libya in strengthening its domestic judicial institutions and capacity building, improving its judicial system, and better safeguard fairness and justice. Third, the international community should support Libya in advancing its political transition. China calls on all Libyan parties to uphold the ceasefire, address differences properly, and create a conducive environment for a political settlement. The Security Council should support UNSMIL in playing a more active role, adhere to the principle of Libyan-led and Libyan-owned, and encourage all parties to engage in inclusive dialogue and consultations to break the political deadlock as soon as possible. The international community should fully respect Libya's sovereignty and ownership, and refrain from undue interference or pressure. China stands ready alongside the international community to continue playing a constructive role in helping Libya maintain peace and stability and achieve development and prosperity. Thank you, Madam President.
I thank the representative of China for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Somalia.
Thank you, Madam President. We listened carefully to the briefing of Deputy Prosecutor Khan and took note of the 30th report of the International Criminal Court pursuant to Resolution 1970. I also welcome the participation of the permanent representative of Libya to this meeting. Madam President, justice and accountability remain central to fostering peace and stability in Libya. Transitional justice is vital for achieving national reconciliation and lasting peace. In that context, my delegation would like to make the following 3 points. First, strengthening national justice institutions must remain a priority, empowering Libyan authorities to lead this process. We welcome the significant step taken by the government of Libya in submitting a declaration under Article 12 of the Rome Statute. This action reflects an enhanced commitment from the government and strengthens the foundation for the rule of law within Libya. Second, existing legal frameworks in Libya should be reinforced and, where appropriate, adapted to respond to evolving circumstances. We reiterate, approaches to justice in Libya are most effective when rooted in Libyan efforts and aspirations. We note that this renewed cooperation establishes a relationship of genuine partnership, which is essential for delivering results for the affected communities. Third, Libyan leadership in addressing justice must take precedence, supported by regional and African mechanisms. As the process advances, the Council should remain vigilant about the role of external factors and observe these dynamics with transparency, ensuring that Libyan-led, Libyan-owned solutions guide the path forward. Madam President, cooperation between Libya and the Libyan authorities and the ICC, as outlined in Security Council Resolution 1970, can foster accountability while respecting complementarity and national sovereignty. We note the report's assessment of a new era of cooperation and encourage the continued engagement between the Office and the Attorney General of Libya to achieve the mutual objectives. This new era of cooperation requires sustained attention and support for Libyan-led initiatives toward justice and peace. We believe comprehensive approaches integrating judicial accountability, humanitarian support, and diplomatic engagement remains essential. In conclusion, Madam President, the international community and this Council should fully support Libya's pursuit of justice, stability, reconciliation, while respecting Libya's sovereignty, territorial integrity, unity, and political independence. Somalia remains committed to playing an active role toward these objectives. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Somalia for the statement. I give the floor to the permanent representative of Greece.
Thank you, Madam President. Greece wishes to thank the Deputy Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Mrs. Khan, for the presentation of the 30th report of the Office of the Prosecutor, pursuant to Security Council Resolution 1970. The report contains information regarding developments about the investigations of the Office of the Prosecutor in Libya, covering the period from May 2025 to date. In this regard, we wish to underscore the following. First, significant progress regarding the main lines of inquiry has been achieved through the work of the Office of the Prosecutor. Greece underlines in this regard the execution of the arrest warrant of the court against Al-Hishri. This arrest warrant is related to the second key line inquiry of the OTP regarding crimes in detention facilities in Libya. According to the report, the suspect is expected to be surrendered to the ICC custody imminently. This is a landmark development. It will be the first surrender since the referral of the situation in Libya to the ICC by the Security Council in 2011. Moreover, as noted in past reports, the ICC has completed the investigation phase regarding the line of inquiry which relates to the 2011 violence. We underscore that according to the present report, there is one outstanding public arrest warrant in relation to this investigation, which the Libyan authorities are called to execute. Related to the above is the acceptance of the court's jurisdiction by Libya through its declaration of 12 May 2025 under Article 12, Paragraph 3 of the Rome Statute, over crimes committed in its territory from 2011 to 2027. The acceptance of the jurisdiction of the court will facilitate the work of the OTP to continue its investigation on the lines of inquiry for the years to follow. Second, we underscore the developments regarding the cooperation of the OTP with the Libyan authorities. Greece highlights not only the acceptance of the jurisdiction of the court by Libya, but also the enhanced commitment of the government to fulfill their cooperation obligations under Resolution 1970 and the increased cooperation and support from the Libyan government to the work of the Office of the Prosecutor. Yet, we underline the remarks of the report as to the concrete steps expected now from the judicial authorities of Libya in terms of cooperation with the OTP. We underscore the remarks of the report as to the increased and more extensive engagement needed as regards the execution of arrest warrants against suspects involved in the lines of investigation regarding the 2011 violence and the crimes in detention facilities, respectively. Third, Greece underlines the importance of empowering victims, witnesses, and affected communities, and welcomes the continued and increased engagement of the Office of the Prosecutor with civil society organizations in the current reporting period. We particularly highlight the significance of a publicly accessible portal that allows the Office of the Prosecutor to receive communications and information on serious crimes falling under the ambit of the Rome Statute. To conclude, Mrs. President, Greece welcomes the increased cooperation of the government of Libya with the Office of the Prosecutor and equally underscores the obligations of the country under Security Council Resolution 1970 to surrender ICC suspects arrested by the Libyan authorities against whom there are pending ICC arrest warrants. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Greece for the statement. I give the floor to the representative of France.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to thank Deputy Prosecutor Khan for her briefing, and we welcome her participation in person at this meeting. I also welcome the presence of the permanent representative of Libya here at the meeting today. Madam President, to evoke the action of the International Criminal Court in Libya is first and foremost to recall certain facts that no one can overlook. And the first such fact is that the ICC acts under a resolution adopted under Chapter 7 and unanimously by members of the Council. This resolution, 1970, places an obligation on all states, whether or not they are parties to the Roman Statute, to cooperate with the court in that situation. Even more than that, it obliges them not to obstruct in any way its action or the action of its Office of the Prosecutor as they carry out this mandate. And the second fact is that Libya itself, without being a party to the Rome Statute, has made the sovereign decision to give jurisdiction to the court, and this was done through a declaration issued on the 12th May 2025 under Article 12, Paragraph 3 of the Rome Statute. This is a sign of confidence by the Libyan authorities towards the ICC and proof that it acts in accordance with the principle of complementarity. Madam President, bringing up the work of ICC in Libya is then to note that it produces results. One of the notable advances during the period covered by the report is the arrest and the imminent surrender to the court of Khalid Mohammed Ali El-Hishri, who was apprehended in Germany on the basis of an arrest warrant issued by the pretrial chamber for war crimes and crimes against humanity. This is the second public arrest warrant issued by this chamber in the context of the investigation into alleged crimes committed in the Mitiga prison. We also note that within the framework of expanded cooperation offered by the Libyan government, the Office of the Prosecutor has intensified its activities over the past 6 months and has carried out at least 25 missions in 6 states and collected more than 1,500 pieces of evidence, including video and audio documents, scientific and technical elements, and satellite images. We also welcome the sustained engagement with Libyan civil society organizations. This was done through 150 meetings with more than 50 organizations, including the important meeting which was attended by Deputy Prosecutor Khan on the 8th of October. This, in our view, is essential work, not only for the investigations, but also in order to ensure that victims are heard and, in case of conviction, that their dignity and their rights are restored. We also encourage the Libyan authorities to cooperate fully with the ICC, particularly on the issue of arrest warrants. Madam President, bringing up the action of ICC in Libya is finally to recognize that it is part of a broader United Nations effort to relaunch the political process. And this is the very core of the mandate of the United Nations Support Mission in Libya, which was recently renewed for another year. We support in this regard the roadmap announced by the Special Representative Hannah Tete and call for its full implementation. This is essential if we want to move forward towards the formation of a new unified government that will lead the country towards presidential and legislative elections conducted in a free, transparent, and inclusive manner throughout the Libyan territory. The enthusiasm generated by the recent municipal elections shows the aspiration of the Libyan people to decide their own future. The quest for justice and the rejection of impunity are also aspirations of the Libyan people, and that is what the ICC contributes to. Madam President, the court can count on France's sustained support for its independent and impartial work, and in this regard, we reiterate our call for the sanctions imposed on the courts, its judges, its prosecutors, and those who cooperate with it to be lifted. I thank you.
I thank the representative of France for the statement, and I'll give the floor to the permanent representative of Slovenia.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to thank the Deputy Prosecutor, Ms. Khan, for her briefing and for the 30th report regarding the Libya situation. I also welcome participation of the Libyan representative. Madam President, we strongly welcome the substantial progress made by the Office of the Prosecutor across its 4 key lines of inquiry in the Libya situation. This progress includes the arrest of Mr. El-Hirshi, which will soon lead to the first trial in this situation before the court. This is a significant achievement in fulfilling mandate given with the Resolution 1970, and it is also an important step in the fight against impunity in Libya. In this sense, we also note that unsealing of another arrest warrant, and we repeat our regret that despite the unsealed arrest warrant, Mr. Njim has been able to return to Libya. We urge all states to fully cooperate with the court, as is their legal obligation under the binding Resolution 1970 and under the Rome Statute. The message that the states are sending to the victims and perpetrators must be clear, and this is there will be no impunity for international atrocities, however long it takes. In this sense, we strongly welcome the continued engagement of the Office of the Prosecutor with victims' associations and civil society. The right to justice and redress must remain at the heart of international efforts. Madam President, we welcome concrete steps taken by Libyan authorities in their cooperation with the prosecutor, and we call on them to continue with their efforts in this regard, in accordance with the Resolution 1970. In particular, we emphasize the importance of executing all outstanding ICC arrest warrants. We positively note the declaration made by the government of Libya pursuant to Article 12, Para 3 of the Rome Statute, and we welcome that the Office of the Prosecutor will continue its investigations pursuant to Resolution 1970 beyond 2026. Madam President, the task and mandate of the court are difficult, now more so than ever before. However, we have established a court for exactly such times, difficult, darkest, most challenging times for the victims. The ICC is delivering justice for the victims. The ICC is ensuring accountability for all, regardless of their position and however long it takes for the victims. The independence and impartiality of the court must be ensured for the victims and for the justice. We, the state parties to the Rome Statute, have established the court as the cornerstone of the global fight against impunity. The establishment of the ICC is part of the legacy of the Nuremberg trial, whose 80th anniversary we commemorated 5 days ago. This role of the ICC has been recognized by this Council in 2 situations, including the one we are discussing today. And this role of the ICC is the reason why we call for all states to continue supporting and protecting the ICC. Slovenia will continue to do so, and we emphasize once again that any threats, pressures, or sanctions against the ICC or its officials are unacceptable, and we call for their immediate removal. I thank you.
I thank the permanent representative of Slovenia for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Algeria.
I thank you, Madam President. My delegation listened with great interest to the briefing by Ms. Nazhat Shameem Khan, Deputy Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. We have reviewed the 30th report on progress made since May 2025 with regards to the situation in Libya, and that was submitted by the ICC's Prosecutor General. We also welcome the participation of the Permanent Representative of Libya in today's meeting. Madam President, achieving justice in Libya, as in all countries of the world, remains a legitimate national demand and an inherent right that cannot be disputed or made subject to compromise. It is not a passing whim or a temporary circumstance dictated by external considerations that are temporary. From this standpoint, allow me to address the following points. First, Algeria affirms that the mandate of the International Criminal Court on the situation in Libya must be exercised within the framework of the principle of complementarity with the national judicial authorities and not on the basis of excluding or replacing them. Accordingly, efforts must focus on strengthening cooperation and coordination between Libyan judicial authorities, which hold primary jurisdiction, and the ICC, in a manner that ensures investigations are conducted into the various crimes and violations and guarantees fair and transparent trials. Second, Algeria notes the decision of the Libyan government to voluntarily accept the court's jurisdiction. This is a decision that reflects the commitment of Libya's highest authorities to achieving justice and promoting accountability for crimes and violations. My country commends the positive cooperation between the Libyan authorities and the ICC, which should accelerate the pace of ongoing investigations with a view to concluding them as soon as possible. Third, Algeria stresses the need for the international community, with the United Nations at the forefront, to assume its responsibility in supporting the justice sector in Libya. This could be done by intensifying training programs, capacity building, and the transfer of expertise to enable the sector to effectively perform its duties as the authority with original and inherent jurisdiction. Fourth, the ICC's mandate in Libya must not be limited to prosecuting local actors involved in various crimes, but must also extend to external parties that have been proven to be complicit in destabilizing the country, sowing discord, and inciting against the Libyan people and state, be it through violating the arms embargo, recruiting mercenaries and foreign fighters, illicit financing, or mobilizing the media. Madam President, justice is a noble human principle that is not limited by time or place. From this perspective, Algeria reiterates its call to the ICC and its prosecutor to continue their tireless efforts to investigate the crimes committed in various conflict zones, including Palestine and the Gaza Strip, which have reaped the lives of thousands of innocents. In closing, Algeria reaffirms its unwavering commitment to Libya's independence, its sovereignty, and the unity of its people and territory. Algeria supports an inclusive inter-Libyan political process under UN auspices aimed at reaching a final and comprehensive solution to the crisis in this brotherly country. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Algeria for the statement. I give the floor to the representative of Pakistan.
Madam President, I join colleagues in thanking Deputy Prosecutor Nazhat Shameem Khan for a detailed briefing. We also welcome the participation of the Permanent Representative of Libya in the meeting. Pakistan takes note of the 30th report of the ICC prosecutor submitted pursuant to Security Council Resolution 1970 of 2011. We have noted the steps taken by the office to strengthen cooperation with all relevant Libyan authorities. We also acknowledge the progress achieved, particularly the expected first surrender of a suspect to the ICC since the Council's 2011 referral, the extensive evidence-gathering efforts, and the office's broad engagement with civil society. We believe that Libya's declaration of May 2025 accepting the court's full jurisdiction will further facilitate constructive cooperation. Madam President, allow me to underscore 3 key points. 1. Pakistan reaffirms its unwavering commitment to Libya's sovereignty, independence, territorial integrity, and national unity. A Libyan-led, Libyan-owned political process remains the only viable path to sustainable peace and stability in the brotherly country. 2. Although Pakistan is not a party to the Rome Statute, we remain committed to credible and across-the-board accountability for international crimes. Selectivity and double standards erode confidence in the global justice system. The ICC's legitimacy will be strengthened when its actions are guided strictly by impartiality and objective criteria. We therefore encourage the Office of the Prosecutor to uphold these principles consistently. 3. Cooperation between the court and Libyan authorities remain essential to fulfilling the mandate established by Resolution 1970. We trust that the Office will continue to act with full sensitivity to Libya's judicial sovereignty and legitimate concerns. A cooperative approach that ensures national ownership will yield the most durable and meaningful results. Madam President, in conclusion, Pakistan encourages continued constructive engagement between Libya and the ICC in a manner that strengthens national ownership and contributes to long-term peace, reconciliation, and justice for the Libyan people. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Pakistan for the statement. I give the floor to the representative of Guyana.
Thank you, Madam President. I thank the Deputy Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Nazhat Shameem Khan, for her presentation of the 30th report of the Prosecutor's Office on the situation in Libya. I also welcome the participation of the Permanent Representative of Libya in today's meeting. Guyana reiterates its support for the work of the Court and takes positive note of the progress made during the reporting period on the key lines of inquiry for the renewed action in Libya. Madam President, February 2026 will mark 15 years since the unanimous decision of the Security Council in Resolution 1970 to refer the situation in Libya to the Prosecutor of the ICC, one of 2 such referrals made by the Council. The Council at the time condemned the widespread and systematic attacks that were taking place against the civilian population in Libya and stressed the need to hold to account those responsible for attacks on civilians. It has been repeatedly recognized that addressing impunity and ensuring justice for victims of atrocity crimes are critical for achieving lasting peace and stability for the people of Libya. The past months have finally brought significant progress, reflective of the tenacity of the Office and the determination of the victims, witnesses, affected communities, and civil society. The arrest in July 2025 of Khaled Mohammed Ali El-Hisri by the German authorities for war crimes and crimes against humanity allegedly committed in Mitiga prison was the first surrender of a suspect to the ICC and the start of pre-trial proceedings since the referral by the Council in 2011. Another positive development was a declaration by the Libyan government of its acceptance of the ICC's jurisdiction over Article 5 crimes committed in Libya from 2011 to the end of 2027. At a time when the security situation in Libya, particularly in Tripoli, remains of concern, the declaration reflecting enhanced commitment from the government of Libya to fulfill their cooperation obligations on the Security Council Resolution 1970 of 2011 is an important recognition that accountability, action by the Office, can support efforts to strengthen the rule of law in Tripoli and throughout Libya. We look forward to continued improvement of the engagements between the Office and the Libyan authorities with concomitant results. We urge the Libyan authorities to provide the necessary assistance to the Prosecutor's Office in accordance with its obligations under Resolution 1970, including the execution of all outstanding arrest warrants and surrender of suspects to the ICC. We also stress the complementarity role of the ICC and note the Office's efforts in contributing to investigations conducted by domestic law enforcement agencies of 5 state parties into alleged international crimes committed in Libya and the Office's readiness to cooperate with Libyan authorities. Madam President, while we commend the determined efforts of the Office to carry out the mandate given by this Council, we acknowledge that the challenges it faces due to resources constraints and encourages states to continue their support in this regard. We also reiterate that to carry out its functions with impartiality and independence, the court, its officials, and those cooperating with it must be able to operate free from threats or intimidation. Recently, the office secured the conviction of Ali Qasab for crimes committed in Darfur, with the ICC unanimously finding him guilty of 27 counts of war crimes and crimes against humanity, the first judgment arising from a Security Council referral. This demonstrates that referrals by the Council to the court can contribute to justice for victims of atrocity crimes. Many are hopeful that the conviction will help to break the cycles of horrific violence that engulf Sudan, serving as a powerful message to perpetrators that such crimes will not be tolerated. In conclusion, Madam President, Guyana reiterates our support for the International Criminal Court and the Office of the Prosecutor. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Guyana for her statement. I now give the floor to the representative of the United Kingdom.
Thank you, Madam President. Let me begin by welcoming the distinguished representative of Libya to today's Council meeting. And may I also thank Deputy Prosecutor Khan for the presentation of her latest report and for her in-person briefing to the Council today. Madam President, I would like to make 3 points. First, the United Kingdom welcomes the progress reported by the Office of the Prosecutor in pursuing its mandate under Resolution 1970. We welcome the significant steps taken across all 4 investigative tracks during this reporting period. This progress is reflected in the anticipated surrender of Mr. Khalid al-Hishri to the court following his arrest in Germany. Such a surrender would constitute a significant landmark in the court's consideration of this situation. Second, we welcome the positive and enhanced cooperation by the Libyan authorities, as highlighted in the Office of the Prosecutor's report. This progress is encouraging and demonstrates what can be achieved through sustained cooperation in pursuit of justice. Continued engagement will be essential to turn these commitments into concrete results. We encourage the Libyan authorities to continue to build on this momentum by working with the court to ensure that those subject to ICC warrants are surrendered so that justice can be delivered for victims. Third, we note that this progress has been achieved despite significant challenges facing the court. It is essential that the court can carry out the mandate entrusted to it by the Council without interference. We call on states to respect and support the court's work. The UK reiterates its support for the ICC and its independence, and we call on states to meet their relevant obligations under Resolution 1970. Madam President, accountability remains essential to stability in Libya. The progress reported today is encouraging, but continued cooperation remains critical. The United Kingdom stands firmly behind the court in its efforts to deliver justice for the Libyan people. Thank you.
I thank the representative of the United Kingdom for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of the United States.
Thank you, Madam President. At the outset, I must reiterate our ongoing grave concerns with the ICC's attempts to assert jurisdiction over the United States or any U.S. ally that has not consented to the ICC jurisdiction. The United States unequivocally opposes such actions. As we indicated during the recent General Assembly debate on the ICC, the core U.S. objection to the ICC has been unchanged for nearly 3 decades, going back to our participation in the Rome Statute negotiations. The ICC prosecutor and judges wield enormous power that has proven to be unchecked, as any safeguards provided in the Rome Statute have failed or been ignored. The United States will no longer stand by and let this happen. As our longstanding concerns have been realized and the threat presented by the ICC has grown, our response has escalated in proportion. Our objectives are clear. The ICC and states parties have the opportunity to change course. Now is the time for action. Turning now to Libya, during the high-level week, the U.S. Senior Advisor for Arab and African Affairs, Masad Boulos, convened a group of senior officials from 10 countries to reinforce our strong commitment to support Libya's progress on a path to greater unity, security, stability, and prosperity. Ending political instability and ensuring accountability in Libya will help reduce ongoing violence and the power of armed groups, which are responsible for many of the most serious human rights abuses across the country. We remain gravely concerned about the lack of respect for rule of law, including in official and unofficial detention facilities, that has allowed these abuses to occur with impunity. To that end, we commend the Attorney General's office for its arrest of former Judicial Police Commander Osama Najim and urge the relevant authorities to ensure he is held accountable for his many alleged human rights violations. We also call on Libyan authorities to ensure former senior officials of the Gaddafi regime face justice. It is necessary to confront past wrongs by breaking the cycle of impunity in Libya and empowering its people for a peaceful, prosperous future. Thank you.
I thank the representative of the United States for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Panama.
Gracias, Presidente.
Thank you, Madam President. We'd like to thank the Deputy Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Nazhat Shameem Khan, for her important updates. We recognize also the presence of the Permanent Representative of Libya, and we value their participation in this meeting. Panama recognizes the work of the International Criminal Court and the Office of the Prosecutor to fulfill the mandate entrusted by this Council through Resolution 1970 in the context of the situation in Libya. We reaffirm that this referral, made under Chapter 7 of the Charter of the United Nations, creates legally binding obligations for all member states, and the Council's credibility hinges on guaranteeing effective cooperation with the Court. The Court's recent report details relevant steps in its efforts to combat impunity for crimes committed on Libyan territory and to advance in accountability. We particularly highlight the issuance and execution of the arrest warrant against Khaled Mohammed Ali al-Hishri, accused of war crimes and crimes against humanity committed in Mitiga prison. His arrests in Germany and his expected prompt handover to the court represent an historic landmark. The court has made noteworthy efforts in investigations with more than 25 missions in 6 states and more than 1,000 pieces of evidence gathered in parallel with national investigations. This reflects the principle of complementarity provided for under Article 17 of the Rome Statute. We also value the cooperation with national authorities and interaction with civil society, as well as progress made in investigations into crimes committed against migrants. Likewise, we welcome the declaration by Libya under Article 12.3 of the Rome Statute, accepting the court's jurisdiction until 2027. This act is legally significant since it formalizes obligations and opens the door to enhanced cooperation in terms of access to evidence, archiving, witness protection, and the execution of arrest warrants. This step opens a new chapter of cooperation between Libya and the court, and it reflects the clear will to move towards strengthening the rule of law. Panama recognizes this commitment as a responsible and necessary step to guarantee robust, results-oriented procedures, and we reaffirm our full support both to the court and the state of Libya in this process. As a state party to the Rome Statute, Panama reiterates its support for the independence, impartiality, and integrity of the International Criminal Court in the belief that accountability is an essential part of justice. For this reason, we question any coercive measure or sanction that might affect its mandate or ongoing investigations. Crimes must not go unpunished, and victims have a right to know the truth, to access justice mechanisms, and to receive reparations. President, convinced that there can be no peace without effective accountability mechanisms, Panama will continue promoting respect for international law and supporting initiatives that can contribute to justice and stability in Libya. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Panama for the statement. I now give the floor to the permanent representative of the Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Madam President. Sorry. I also thank Deputy Prosecutor Khan for her briefing. I also welcome the permanent representative of Libya to today's meeting. We have taken note of studies report submitted by Office of the Prosecutor and the important development it outlines. In light of the report and the current situation in Libya, I would like to make the following 3 points. First, we commend the meaningful progress made by the ICC during this reporting period. In particular, we note the arrest of El Hidishi by the German authorities following the issuance of an arrest warrant for crimes committed in Mitika prison. We also welcome the unsealing of the arrest warrants for Saif Schneider, as well as ongoing efforts to secure the arrest of the remaining fugitives. These are important steps toward and mark a clear progress toward accountability for the grave crimes committed in Libya. We further highlight the strengthened cooperation between ICC and member states, international organizations, and national investigative teams. Germany's support in executing arrest warrant, as well as the work of the joint investigative team, demonstrate the essential value of international partnership rooted in Rome Statute and the obligation established by Security Council Resolution 1970. We also welcome the Office decision to continue its investigative activities beyond May 2026 to ensure the substantive completion of the priority lines of inquiry and encourage the Office to carry forward its work with sustained commitment and resolve. Second, we believe that a particularly significant development is Libya's declaration under Article 12, Paragraph 3 of the Rome Statute, through which it accepted the ICC's jurisdiction until 2027. Its voluntary declaration sends a strong and unmistakable message that there will be no safe refuge for perpetrators of serious crimes, and that accountability will remain an unavoidable reality for those responsible. At the same time, we recognize that challenges remain. We encourage all Libyan authorities, including Office of the Attorney General, to translate this declaration into tangible cooperation, particularly in arrest and the surrender of suspects, and by providing timely responses to ICC requests. We urge the Libyan authorities to urgently address persistent non-cooperation regarding certain fugitives, which remains a serious concern. Third, we are encouraged by the Prosecutor's Office deepening its engagement with the civil society and victims group, and hope to see this positive trend continue to gain momentum. The more than 150 interactions conducted during the reporting period are evidence of the victim-centered approach bearing fruits. Ending impunity is inseparable from restoring the dignity of victims, and sustained efforts in this regard remain essential. We therefore encourage the ICC to continue to ensure that communications with these stakeholders remains transparent and is conducted safely and securely. In closing, Madam President, the Republic of Korea reiterates its strong support for the ICC. As a steadfast support for the court, we commend its unwavering efforts to end impunity despite unprecedented challenges to the court. We remain convinced that this work will be essential in preventing future atrocities and paving the way toward lasting peace and stability. I thank you.
I thank the permanent representative of the Republic of Korea for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of the Russian Federation.
Madam President, For a number of years, there has been a steady downward trend, which reflects a consistent loss by the International Criminal Court of the trust of the international community, who grew tired of double standards, imitation of activity, and of politically motivated justice. On the 11th of November, the General Assembly considered the draft annual resolution on the ICC report. The voting results showed very clearly the real attitude of states towards the activities of this politicized body. In the last year alone, the number of delegations voting in favor decreased by 20. In total, less than half of UN member states supported this pseudo-court. It is noteworthy that the backbone of ICC supporters is EU countries and like-minded countries. And every time that in every instance they avoid subjecting their own citizens to a jurisdiction of the ICC. It is also interesting that among the states parties to the statute itself, a quarter did not vote in support of the court. The voting results in the General Assembly are a best illustration of the fact how absolutely groundless is the ICC's claim to universality. In fact, this structure, which is mired in scandals and corruption, has no support even amongst its own participants. Furthermore, over the past year, 4 states announced their withdrawal from the Rome Statute. And all of them did this for similar reasons, namely politicization, neo-colonial practices, rewriting the international law to suit themselves, and the loss by the court of any connection with genuine justice. Thus, we are talking here not about isolated episodes, but rather about a systemic, a deep dissatisfaction and disappointment on the part of those who, in the past, supported the creation of the court in the hope of getting a fair and effective mechanism. The mass exodus of states shows that the ICC is losing trust, it's losing its support base and legitimacy. But let's get back to the situation in Libya. We carefully studied the 30th anniversary report of the ICC Prosecutor's Office on the progress in the investigation of the situation in Libya. And there is absolutely nothing to celebrate here. What we have before us is yet another superficial pro forma reply, serving as the best confirmation of the systemic nature of the crisis inside and around the ICC. Time after time, we hear a set of statements about some kind of prioritization and overcoming ever new challenges. All of this are empty words and imitation of work. In this regard, we would like to recall that since the transfer of the Libyan file to the ICC by the Security Council, more than 14 years have elapsed. And during this time, the pseudo-court has not been able to demonstrate real results in terms of administering justice. Its contribution to promoting stabilization and establishing sustainable peace can only be qualified as negative. ICC activity on the tasks assigned to it by Security Council Resolution 1970 has long reached a dead end. At the same time, the ICC itself, instead of conscientiously fulfilling the Council's instructions or admitting that they cannot contribute positively to the investigation of the situation, instead of that they chose a more convenient path. It began to set tasks for itself and determine areas of investigations, presenting this kind of a dubious approach as some kind of progress. In particular, the ICC undertook to investigate current events in Libya, and this was done long before the recent declaration made by the Libyan authorities, and despite the fact that it had no mandate in this regard. And this allowed the court to churn out new warrants, covering up the absence of real results in investigating the events of 2011, which were originally entrusted to it by the Council. At the same time, here today, we heard several times from several delegations a statement that the Resolution 1970 imposes an obligation to cooperate on states who are not parties to the Rome Statute. We would like to clarify this situation. In paragraph 5 of the operative part of the resolution, it's stated directly that non-parties to the statutes carry no obligations as regards the statute. And when it comes to cooperation, there's just an appeal to cooperate, which imposes no legal obligations on anyone. And we would like to recall here that the horrors of the protracted civil war, which the peaceful population of Libya endured for years, are a direct consequence of NATO aggression against Libya in 2011. The destruction of Libyan statehood and Libyan economy sowed chaos, and that became a breeding ground for terrorists, extremists, and criminals, spreading instability throughout the continent of Africa. As we well remember, the ICC preferred to close its eyes to the root causes of the tragedy. It saw no war crimes committed by NATO. In its interpretation, the responsibility is conveniently being shifted onto the Libyans themselves. We have consistently been pointing out the politicization and double standards of the ICC, and the report presented today confirms our correctness yet once again. Thus, relatively recently, this pseudo-court decided to investigate crimes against migrants. But even here, it again demonstrates how selective it is. The references are being made, but only to individual episodes of crimes. There's still not the slightest mention of the role played by the European states, whose policies and practices caused inhumane treatment and death of people who seeking refuge. Not to mention the role played by these states and how complicit they were in the armed invasion of Libya, which became the root cause of the migration crisis. Therefore, the ICC, as usual, has been diligently sweeping under the carpet the deeds of its Western masters and their allies. Selectivity and shielding of one's own are distinguishing characteristics of the work of this body, and it's especially indicative in the situation with Italy's non-compliance. Italy is a participant in the Rome Statute, but they did not execute an arrest warrant at the beginning of the year. And what were the consequences? The pseudo-court limited itself to just stating the violation and postponed consideration of the issue. When the rules are being violated by one of its own, the ICC turns a blind eye. Had in Italy's place been any non-Western country, then the issue would have been immediately referred to the Assembly of States Parties. Madam President, we have repeatedly emphasized that sustainable settlement in Libya is only possible through the support of national institutions. But the ICC here as well acts as an obstacle to normalization by ignoring the statutory principle of complementarity. By its interference, therefore, it systematically devalues attempts by Libyans to establish their own justice mechanism. The CEDAW court continues to impose models from outside and ignoring the root causes of problems and the regional context. Libya does not need new experiments by external players. The Libyan people have every right to independently determine their future. The duty of the international community is not to substitute the sovereign will of Libya, but to help strengthen national institutions, to promote restoration of security and support the political process. As for the ICC activities, they have long turned into an obstacle that needs to be removed. And in this regard, we again call for the withdrawal of the Libyan as well as a Darfur file from the International Criminal Court. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Russia for the statement. I shall now make a statement in my capacity as the representative of Sierra Leone. I thank the Deputy Prosecutor, Ms. Nazhat Shameem Khan, for her comprehensive briefing in presenting of the 13th report of the Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court on the situation in Libya, pursuant to Security Council Resolution 1970. Sierra Leone welcomes her presence and the continued engagement of the Office of the Prosecutor in fulfilling the mandate of this Council. I also welcome the participation of the Permanent Representative of Libya in this meeting. We take positive note of and welcome the significant progress achieved during the reporting period. In this regard, the anticipated surrender of Khalid El-Hishri to the court following his arrest by the German authorities on the basis of an ICC warrant marks an important turning point in the pursuit of accountability in Libya. The charges relate to grave crimes in Mitiga prison, including murder, torture, rape, and sexual violence. His transfer is expected to lead to the first trial before the court pursuant to Resolution 1970. This development further demonstrates that accountability under this referral is feasible when cooperation is sustained. We also take note of progress across all 4 core lines of inquiry. The renewed tempo of operations, including 25 missions conducted across 6 states, significant evidence collection, and the expansion of structured engagements with victims and civil society illustrates the determination of the Office of the Prosecutor to advance justice in an increasingly complex environment. Sierra Leone further welcomes the declaration issued by the government of Libya under Article 12.3 of the Rome Statute. This is a meaningful expression of Libya's willingness to work with the court. It provides a renewed basis for partnership and reinforces the importance of national ownership in the pursuit of accountability. We also take positive note of the concrete steps taken by the Libyan authorities following this declaration and encourage sustained cooperation as the investigations proceed. In view of the foregoing, let me make the following 3 points. First, Sierra Leone acknowledges the operational challenges highlighted in the report. These include restrictions on access to sites, the difficulty of executing warrants, and limited resources for the effective conduct of investigations. We also recognize with concern that these efforts have advanced despite coercive measures directed at the courts and its personnel. The sanctions imposed on the prosecutor, deputy prosecutors, and judges raise important questions about the ability of judicial officials at the court to perform their duties independently. Sierra Leone places high value on professionalism and dedication of the court's personnel and emphasizes the importance of ensuring that they are able to discharge their responsibilities free from actions that may undermine cooperation or impede the impartial administration of justice. We reaffirm our strong support for the court's independence and express the hope that issues affecting its effective functioning will be addressed in a manner consistent with our shared commitments to justice and the rule of law. Second, we reiterate that the duty to cooperate with the ICC in this situation flows directly from Resolution 1970 and the Charter of the United Nations. 9 arrest warrants remain unexecuted, including that of Saif al-Islam Gaddafi. The credibility of this council depends on full and timely cooperation by all states, regardless of their status under the Rome Statute. We therefore encourage member states and the Libyan authorities to ensure that suspects are arrested and surrendered without delay and that access to evidence and witnesses is facilitated in good faith. Sierra Leone underscores ongoing need for the continuing engagement between the office and the Libyan judicial authorities. The principle of complementarity must guide the next phase of work. National institutions should be strengthened and equipped to ensure that progress achieved at the international level contributes to sustainable accountability at home. We also acknowledge the contributions of member states and regional partners, including civil society. The Joint Investigative Team addressing migrant-related crimes, which includes several states in Europe, Europol, and Interpol, provides a practical example of a shared responsibility. Sierra Leone supports deeper cooperation of this kind and encourages the expansion of coordinated models to address other areas of serious criminality identified in the report. Third, we pay tribute to the courage of victims, witnesses, and human rights defenders whose cooperation has made these advances possible. Sierra Leone encourages the Office of the Prosecutor to continue its victim-centered approach, including psychosocial support, protection measures, and regular updates that keep affected communities engaged. Sierra Leone further recognizes the importance of ensuring that the court has the resources required to fulfill its responsibilities under this referral. We encourage member states to support the Trust Fund for Victims and the Court's Trust Fund for participation in proceedings so that financial constraints do not limit the pursuit of justice. In closing, Sierra Leone reaffirms its commitment to the courts, the Rome Statute, and to the full implementation of Resolution 1970. Accountability remains essential to any lasting peace in Libya. Sierra Leone will continue to support a principled, complementarity-driven, and victim-centered approach and encourages all states to uphold their obligations in support of justice, stability, and the rule of law. Thank you. I resume my function as President of the Council. I now give the floor to the Permanent Representative of Libya.
Madam President, at the outset, I would like to thank you for organizing this meeting. We would like to welcome Madam Nazhat Khan, the Deputy Prosecutor, and we have taken note of the 30th report. Madam President, the fact that we have reached the 30th report, and considering that the ICC is required to submit 2 reports a year, also means that we have arrived to almost 15 years since the Libyan file has been referred to the ICC by the Security Council. And despite the fact that Libya did not ratify the Rome Statute, we realized the important role of the ICC in prosecuting those who have perpetrated war crimes or crimes against humanity or genocide throughout the world, in accordance with what has been defined in its statute. Therefore, and as mentioned in your report, there has been and continues to be cooperation between the ICC and the Libyan Prosecutor General and the Presidential Council and the government throughout the years, despite all of the challenges facing the country. Libya would like to thank the ICC and the Prosecutor General's Office for the support they've given to Libya in putting an end to impunity for international crimes perpetrated in Libya. We welcome the progress made by the ICC on the Libya situation over the past 6 months. Protecting the rights of Libyan victims is a priority for the Libyan government and the relevant authorities. This was manifest in the cooperation declared until the end of 2027 and to guarantee giving cooperation to Libyan authorities in accordance to Article 12.3 of the Rome Statute in order to enhance the rule of law and human rights in the country. This will enhance international justice and the Libyan people's aspiration to achieve their goal, which is to put an end to impunity and to protect the rights of innocent Libyans. Madam President, as is the case in every intervention we make, we must stress that the ICC's jurisdiction is based on the principle of complementarity and not replacement. And the national judicial authorities are the original owners or holders of the jurisdiction. I have discussed this matter with the Deputy Prosecutor General and means of enhancing it. And here we must confirm the following points. The Prosecutor's Office is the judicial authority at the national level that is authorized to fulfill the jurisdiction of prosecuting those who are accused of perpetrating crimes against humanity and war crimes as stipulated in the Rome Statute. The principle of complementarity comes in the form of cooperation and following up with investigations and evidence, especially when the national authorities are unable to investigate with those accused or to arrest them in accordance with its mandate, and this is in accordance with national laws and respect for national jurisdiction. Any arrest warrants that have been issued based on the request of the ICC and related to Libyan citizens are in the jurisdiction of the Libyan prosecutor's office to look into these crimes, unless it is unable to do so. At that time, the complementary role of the ICC is activated. To give an example of something that we believe is important in the principle of complementarity, is that issue pertained to those accused of the worst crimes of the century in Libya, which is the mass graves in Tarhuna, and prosecuting those who have been accused of perpetrating these crimes. In terms of numbers, the National Prosecutor's Office investigated 614 cases pertaining to the mass graves. 255 judicial orders were issued, and 220 files were referred. The number of those jailed under investigation is 52. The investigators have issued 111 arrest warrants for persons who have perpetrated killing, kidnapping, forced disappearance, and torture. And despite the above mentioned, and considering that these crimes are at the level of war crimes and are at the top of the atrocities that Libya has witnessed for decades, however, the last report did not mention those fugitives, numbering 5. Those fugitives are present in other states, and they are the ones that the ICC and the prosecutor's office have asked for. Therefore, we asked for intensifying efforts and to coordinate with the prosecutor's office so that this can be remedied in the future. As for the atrocities perpetrated as a result of terrorism and migrant smuggling networks and human trafficking networks, and which we feel must be mentioned, and we must note the work of the National Prosecutor's Office and the different security bodies in combating these crimes, and through international partnerships, then we would like to cite the following examples. The counterterrorism body has offered 1,231 files to the Prosecutor General. 38 cases pertain to belonging to a banned group through which, for example, with the Prosecutor's Office, we have arrested and investigated with Hashim Bousidra, who is the wali or the leader of the ISIS movement in my country, and he is well known, and arresting him was important in weakening this organization and its networks locally and internationally. They have perpetrated war crimes and crimes against humanity. And in the same framework, we have combated some groups that have become professional human traffickings, and we have submitted 26 human trafficking cases, and we have arrested dozens of those suspects, including foreign nationals. Moreover, the Prosecutor's Office in 2024 has launched an initiative to coordinate national and international efforts to provide a comprehensive remedy to human trafficking and migrant smuggling. And this initiative was joined by national and international bodies in coordination with the government, such as the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, and the International Migration Organization, IOM. And during this period of time, many of those involved in international human trafficking networks were arrested, and hundreds of migrants were rescued in operations that were conducted in cooperation with the different security bodies. Madam President, the reason we mentioned the above is to confirm that those suspects must be apprehended in accordance with national legal measures, and any individual cases, if they were to happen, do not represent a state policy or the policy of its institutions. And everybody realizes here that citizens have grown tired of impunity and are no longer able to tolerate the infiltration of terrorists and armed groups and criminal networks into their daily lives. Citizens are trying to build a state of institutions and laws. Therefore, we fully trust in the national judicial authorities and their forces and their ability to perform their duties. Surely there are challenges and difficulties. These cannot be ignored. There are several horrible crimes that have been committed, and those who committed them are still unknown or at large. But crimes in national law do not have a statute of limitations, such crimes. Therefore, everyone must support the national judicial authorities and the Prosecutor General's office and the investigative teams, as well as the different judicial bodies, because despite the current divisions in the country, they enjoy agreement and support in the country. They are exerting every possible effort. Therefore, we call on the court to implement complementarity and to improve channels of communication and do not allow itself to be dragged behind attempts to politicize its work or pressure it. To the members of the Security Council, I address you to say, all of these crimes and atrocities that are perpetrated in the country are only a result of the absence of a comprehensive political solution. To this very day, they are a result of negative external interference for the past 15 years. What is happening is only a symptom, but the real cause is the absence of a solution to the Libyan question. Libya does not want to stay indefinitely on the agenda of the ICC or the agenda under Chapter 7 of this Council. Efforts must be focused on supporting national reconciliation through the transitional justice track, through exposing the truth. And through that, we can say that no peace can be achieved without justice. I thank you, Madam President.
I thank the permanent representative of Libya for the statement. I now give the floor to Deputy Prosecutor Nazhat Shameem Khan to respond to comments.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and I have very much appreciated the constructive manner of this engagement. I appreciate the time that delegations have spent responding to our report and to the statement today. I also very much appreciate the constructive discussion that I had yesterday with His Excellency, the Permanent Representative of Libya. We hope to continue with our discussions. I think the key to progress is partnership and constructive dialogue and effective communication, and I think we agreed on that, and we will continue with that plan. So thank you again to all delegations, and we find that your contributions will really help us in furthering and satisfying the mandate given to us by this Council. Thank you very much indeed.
I thank Deputy Prosecutor Khan for her statement. There are no more names inscribed on the list of speakers. This meeting is adjourned.